There's no VIPs, there's no hierarchy, there's no like roped off guest area. Like, that's not what we do. Underground Fan Club was created because I was like, fans deserve more. They deserve access and they don't get it.
Hello and welcome to Outlines, a podcast about sport, stories and the media. My name's Owen Connolly, hope you're well. It is great to have you listening. So an interesting dimension of sports media and culture and business in the decade just gone is how ideas have flowed from one context to another, how stories are reimagined for different formats or communities position themselves on and offline, or how a perspective you develop in one setting can spark something really distinctive elsewhere. Our guest this time is Charlie Copsey. She's the founder of Underground Fan Club, a company that works with talent, with brands, and with sports teams and organisations to deliver live experiences that go beyond the canned Q&As or after dinner speeches or meet and greets that have so often been the standard for such things in the past. And Charlie's coming at this from an interesting angle. Her background is as a producer, chiefly in radio, but also in TV and film. And most notably, she was for many years with Fighting Talk, the irreverent and much-loved sports panel show on BBC Radio 5 Live. It was there that she struck up a fruitful ongoing creative partnership with broadcaster Colin Murray, and it was also there that she incubated a lot of her thinking about how to connect with audiences through tone and format and how to bring guests along for the ride. We talked about how the two parts of that career have informed one another. She explains the inspiration for Underground Fan Club, its processes and philosophy, and its approach to designing its experiences, from bringing the best out of talent to keeping brand partners comfortable, finding concepts and venues that work, and ultimately delivering for the fans in the room. And she also reflects on the lessons she's taken from that earlier part of her professional life, from the value of the practical skills and talent network she gathered to the energy that went into fostering a community and controlling the chaos in the Fighting Talk studio. That's to come once again. If you're enjoying the podcast, then please do subscribe and please do what you can to let people know about it. You can do that in the algorithmically focused way by rating and reviewing on your podcast platform of choice, or you can just tell people, get them onto your favorite episodes. Plenty of good ones to choose from by now. Social media details are in the show notes as ever. And if you want to get involved, get in touch. But enough of that. Let's crack on with what we came here for. Here is Charlie Copsey. So New Zealand at the start of the year.
Yes.
Fun, nice.
Oh, it was the best, apart from the horrendous flight that totally messes you up and the 13-hour time difference. It was a great way to start the year. I've got loads of friends that live out there, so it was lovely to be in the sunshine and have a bit of sunny weather and then come back to the absolute madness of Underground Fan Club.
Yeah, certainly weather-wise you've timed it well. But I mean, it's an unusually busy period as we're talking. I mean, we're be like mid-February, I think, when people hear this. It's that, I mean, we are on the cusp now. This weekend we've got Winter Olympics starting today, Six Nations started yesterday, T20 World Cup starts tomorrow, Super Bowl is on Sunday, and then you have the kind of continuing madness of the football season and everything else around that.
Sport just never stops. That's why.
Yeah, but you do get these kind of intense bursts, and for you guys, so you quite a lot of your stuff is sort of I guess pegged to that calendar as well, because it's in anticipation of some major event, or there's some seasonality.
Yeah, exactly. So we do a lot of, we have something called the warm-up, which is kind of something that we do quite a lot. So that's essentially an experience that warms up to a big sporting fixture. So last week we did an event for the Super Bowl with NFL UK and Box Bar Piccadilly. And it was very much like 10 days out to the Super Bowl. Everyone's starting to be like, we know the teams now. And it's that opportunity to just build on that hype and anticipation, really. And a lot of the time we do it closer, but we're working with Jason and Bell and Neil Reynolds, and they're obviously out for the Super Bowl for the week. So yeah, but usually it's something that we would do like 2 or 3 nights before a big event. And then create something really fun and engaging. But also we do a lot in the running space and fitness, which is kind of probably less around a moment and more around a product launch with obviously like an Adidas or a Nike or something like that. So they're kind of more tied into product launches. But again, like it's always that running is very much the start of the year. It's like just that time where everything is happening. So yeah, next few months are very busy for us.
Well, it's good busy, and also good that
I'll never complain about that, ever.
And also good that you could join us. I mean, there are lots of people who will be familiar with Underground Fan Club. There'll be some who are less familiar. What is it, or kind of what's the kind of elevator pitch for it, but also what inspired it as well? Because your background is not in events, your background is in broadcast.
No, not at all. So absolutely. So Underground Fan Club, essentially we bring fans closer to talent and brands through experiences, mainly in sport and entertainment. And to give you some context and background, so my background is a producer. I worked in broadcast world, so TV, radio, film. I produced a show called Fighting Talk on BBC 5 Live, which is a really big flagship show for the station. And I worked on that for 18 years. So it was a really, really big part of my career, whilst producing like a feature film with Nicholas Hoult and James Corden and doing all these other things. So I have a real like mixed bag of experience in different industries. But really what led me to starting Underground Fan Club was Fighting Talk has this amazing, I guess, kind of point of difference for a lot of other shows. It was hosted by Colin Murray for a really long time. It was like an appointment to listen on a Saturday morning. People would listen on the way to the football with their kids in the car. And I mean, it's been going for 23 years now. And it was the second radio show to ever be a podcast on the BBC. So like, we were just like there, we were lucky to be there ahead of our time in a lot of things. And it was my job to book the talent to begin with. And I would find people like John Bishop when there was 12 people in a comedy club. And I was one of those 12 people. And I brought John onto the show and Ramesh Ranganathan and people like Kevin Bridges, and we had this an amazing array of talent come through. And it's a sports entertainment show, so it was points for punditry, and we had 4 guests on, but it was just such a laugh for everybody. And people would come in on a Saturday morning and they would record an hour of the show, and they would be with, you know, a comedian might be with us, an athlete and a journalist, and it would just be really fun for everyone. And we created this culture that was just like, it was just a lot of fun, and people got to talk about sport. And especially for people that sport isn't their, you know, it's like not their genre. They might be a comedian, but they're a massive football fan. So for them, it was an opportunity to come on the show and talk about something that they love and have a great time. And then meanwhile, we did live shows around the country, and we started these in, oh my gosh, I want to say probably 2010 maybe. So again, very ahead of our time. And we actually got asked to do our radio show at a literary festival in Harrogate. And when we got the request through, we were like, why would someone come and watch a radio show? Like, that's so boring. To us, we thought that was boring. Obviously, live podcast shows now are huge. And we did it, and we had, oh my God, hundreds and hundreds of people turn up. It was so amazing. And it was the first time we really got to meet our audience and be like, oh wow, like people are really obsessed with this show. And then we started taking it out on the road and doing live shows around the country, and we did them in front of thousands of people at big football stadiums. We did one at Stoke City. We did our big day out in front of 5,000 people at Liverpool Echo Arena. And that for me was like, because as you said, my experience wasn't in events, but there was like this magic to these like events of like being in person with people that I just absolutely loved. And yet you just get that different kind of energy and feeling, you know, when you're all in a studio, you can't, it's just, you know, it's obviously a different feel. And obviously the talent absolutely loved it as well, because it's that instant gratification of people laughing at your joke, or, you know, just kind of really wanting you to win and do well. So that was kind of part of the reason. And then I was going to corporate events, meanwhile, as a guest, I would be invited. And to be honest, I felt they were very lackluster. I just, like, athletes might be on a panel being asked questions that they've been asked a million times. They're looking really bored. They don't want to be there. And it all just felt a bit stale. And as a producer, I was just like, oh my God, there has to be something that's better than this, for the talent and the athletes as well as the audience. And I kind of knew that because of my relationships with so many athletes and talent, I kind of knew that was something that they wanted to do. They wanted to engage with fans, but they weren't doing it because there wasn't the platform for them to do it in a legitimate, authentic way. So all of that combined, I just thought, right, I'm just going to do an event. And so this was 7.5 years ago. And we hooked it around an Anthony Joshua fight. And we did essentially the big fight warm-up party. And I got a free venue. I basically begged and borrowed a lot of favors. And we had Steve Bunce, amazing boxing journalist, David Hay, Nick Bright hosted it, Darren Harriott, Fleur East is my mate. She came and DJ'd, and we just created this really like highly produced, entertaining show that was all about, the hype, the weekend, the behind the scenes stories. We had about 70 people in the audience. And it was just like a real moment of like, oh, wow, this is something that's really different. And it just had that kind of energy, that underground energy that obviously is now really developed. And that's really where it all began.
What do you think people have been missing in that live event space? I mean, when you talk about the sterility of these sort of branded events, was it a question of they weren't seeing it, or was it a question of they couldn't deliver it? Because there's, we'll kind of get into some of the skills that come with making something like this happen, and some of it is making people feel comfortable on both sides of the show, right? The brand or the organization who might be backing it, and the people who are going on stage who might not be natural performers. What do you think from your conversations around that time? Where do you think the gap was?
I think I guess we weren't coming at it as event organizers. I think that's probably one thing to really stress. And I actually never, I really try and avoid the word event. I say we create experiences, because I feel like, and obviously that sounds quite pedantic, but an event to me could be like, show up to a room, there's some canapes, there's a Q&A, you do a bit of networking and you leave, right? That's probably an event that doesn't really evoke many feelings or that much connection, where it's like an experience is something that you really feel. And it's a real kind of experience that's really gonna stay with you. And because of my background as a producer, and I think especially working in broadcast, which is when you don't work with brands, it is a totally different way of producing, because all we need to think about is how do we connect with the audience? Yeah, that is all we need to think about. So, and that's what I've done for, all my life. So it's how do we make the talent feel really comfortable? How do we get the best out of them? How are we making sure that they can talk about their personal passions and just make it feel real and not forced? And there's that real kind of middle ground between it being scripted, which obviously it is, but then giving space and breath for moments that are not scripted, and just kind of letting it flow where it needs to flow and having that comfortability. And I think really that's where we kind of have that point of difference, because it is highly produced. There's so many elements that are thought about, and especially from the talent point of view. And we always say we want talent to enjoy it as much as the fans. And I can't imagine too many other people saying that, to be quite honest. I think talent are really forgotten about in this whole ecosystem of events and content. And it's very much oh, we need someone, we'll just pick someone at random, and they've got a good Instagram following or TikTok following, and we'll just plonk them into that's not how we work at all. They're very much we're really thoughtful about who we work with. We want to make sure that they're the kind of people that really want to connect with audiences as well. And it's not just about turning up and getting your money and leaving. And there's certain people that tick those boxes and other people that don't. So
yeah. I mean, there's definitely some stuff we'll come back to on the format side, which I think is is really interesting. That kind of organized chaos feel of sort of something like Fighting
Yeah.
Talk. But let's look at what builds an underground fan club event or experience or happening. I mean, how there's quite a lot of what you're talking about feels quite intangible, right? It's atmosphere, vibe, whatever you want to call it. There's obviously going to be design elements. There's obviously going to be a choice of venue that goes into all of that stuff. But what are some of the kind of practical steps that you take to get
great
those
question.
intangibles right?
You mentioning the venue is a really good one. We would never do anything in a theatre. Just for us, that feels like separation between the stage and the audience. And again, like we always want everything to feel like it's like everyone, there's no VIPs, there's no hierarchy, there's no like roped off guest area. Like that's not what we do. So it needs to feel, the kind of venue needs to feel like it's intimate and it's like everyone's part of something special and it's kind of like, oh, I've got access to this. And the biggest one that we did was at Silverstone, and we did the show with George Russell, and we had probably 800 people in the room. And I was quite nervous about that one because I was like, oh, I hope, is it going to feel special enough for everyone there though? Because that's actually quite a big audience. But it actually did. I think like obviously the other things that we did just made it feel special for everyone. So that was great. And then, as I said, talent is really the big one there. It's about everything that I just said, really. It's about making sure that we work with the right kind of people and people that really just want to be part of it and are just going to like bring their full self to it. And it's always, obviously I've got a lot of relationships and we do work with a lot of people that I know, but there'll also be people that I don't know. And it's kind of like even like having chats with their agents and it's being like really, really clear up front of like, this is what we are. And like agents know whether some people will be like, do you know what, I'm going to be honest, like they're not the right person for this. And we'll be like, great, that's fine. And I think a lot of people want to, they want the opportunity to express themselves in a bit of a different way in a fun environment. And also that fan talent interaction, there aren't many opportunities for people to get that. So I think, that's just really important. And then there's just so many nuances that I think are probably kind of our secret sauce that are just ingrained in so many things. And obviously I can't give it all away, the recipe. But but there's just like so many little elements of just like, okay, making sure that, as I said, like we don't have this hierarchy, we don't have a VIP guest list. Like this underground fan club was created because I was like, fans deserve more, they deserve access and they don't get it. And corporate events, going back to that, it was very much like, oh, it's £500 for a ticket. And I'm like, okay, so you're just outpricing everybody. So we exist to kind of give the normal people, in brackets, that special moment where they go, oh my God, I feel like I've been made really special and I feel like I've been rewarded for being a fan, and how great is that? So that's like another layer of underground fan club that's kind of like in our DNA.
Yeah. How do you go about making, but there's three different groups of people here. So you've got the talent, you've got the fans, and you've got, where they're involved, you've got brands, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to make all of them feel comfortable. And, having done this in a B2B space in the past, people have varying degrees of comfort with what you're going to ask them to do. Like, as I say, you talk about Steve Bunce and David Hay, both natural, both very experienced, performers on camera and at these kind of events. But also there are brands who are a little bit more ready to go with the flow, and there are fans who are more curious, or you've got varying things that you've got to deal with. So let's kind of break it down. I mean, the thing that can be hardest to solve is having a brand involved. So at this point, I guess people know what they're getting into with you. But
yeah,
what
true.
are what were some of the steps, or what are some of the steps that maybe you still have to take to convince people that this is going to be a little bit different? You're going to have maybe a little bit less control, or
Yes, definitely. So as I said earlier, I had no experience working with brands until I started this. So it was a massive learning curve. And obviously a lot of times I was like, oh, well, why would you do it this way? It was just like, working with agencies, it's like, it's a completely different world. Something that I've been really strict with, and sometimes it has ended up me saying you're not the right partner for us, is that Underground Fan Club is essentially a brand in its own right. We don't act as a white label agency, which is something that is very different to, I would say, like 98% of companies that are doing experiential. So we immediately have to protect ourselves and protect our reputation and protect what we stand for. So if we're having a conversation with a brand and they're like super bullish around like, well, we're doing this, and I'll just be like, sorry, it just doesn't fit with us. And, at the end of the day, they're paying the money essentially. They're essentially the client, but I'm also like, we are partners in this and we collaborate with you. So for me, I want it to be like from day one, are we on the same line with what we expect out of this? It's like, these are the elements of Underground Fan Club that are kind of like non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And if you're happy with those elements, because obviously brands are now coming to us and being like, oh yeah, you provide, like legitimacy, fans really trust you. Like we can see from what you've done, like talent really trust you, so we're building that reputation for ourselves now. But honestly, like if it didn't feel a right fit, then I would, like, regardless of money, I'd just be like, we're not going to do it. It just, it's not worth us doing one experience and it doesn't, and people will be like, oh, that just feels a bit off for Underground Fan Club. And then it just, that's not good for us. But I have to say, the brands that we've worked with, I think because we're so upfront about that from day one, they trust us and they go like, yeah, you're the experts and we trust you. And even, there's one brand that we worked with and they were quite, how do I say this? We were working a lot with talent and they were really like coming back to us with like, oh, we don't think this person's right. And what about this person? And we were just like, no, you have to trust us. I'm sorry, but it's not going to work if you don't. We know these people, we're going to get the best out of them for this project. These people, yes, they might be TikTokers but they're not going to work for this product. And and you just have to be kind of forceful in a way. And luckily they, of course, it ended up being great. And they were like, yeah, you were totally right.
I mean, have parts of the space come to meet you a little bit on those terms in the last 5 years or so, that you've been operating, that they have to be a little bit more malleable if you're going to work with creators, if you're going to kind of do events and at a slightly more kind of a more audience level rather than way up in a space that you control.
Yeah. And obviously we're always flexible and we'll meet people. Like at the end of the day, it is a partnership, and there's things that we will like staunchly not move on, and then things we were like, of course we're going to be flexible on this, but we expect the kind of same from the brand partner as well. I mean, one example, we work a lot with Sports Shoes, who are a really big online running retailer. And so they have like the load of big brands with Nike and Adidas. And we've worked with them for the past 7 years, like literally at the start of of Underground Fan Club. And we've just got such an incredible relationship with them where they just trust us implicitly. And they just go, okay, we've got this brand launch. Here's the budget. Off you go, and they just like, because we know each other so well, and I think, and we understand like what success is for them and what's important to them, and obviously kind of making sure that it's still legitimately around the running scene, but also bringing in different kinds of talent that they would never think about working with because they're very much in running. But it's about building those relationships. And that's the amazing thing when you end up working with brands for a long period of time, because you really just understand each other and you trust each other, and you kind of, you just have this mutual understanding of it working out really well. So I hope that's answered the question.
Yeah, no, it has. And what about on that talent side? Obviously you're working with a lot of people, but it's still a slightly different space from broadcast, where if you're working with a comedian who's coming on Fighting Talk, they know Fighting Talk, in most cases, and or at least they know kind of what the MO is going to be.
Yeah.
But also, you have to do things if you're building up to an event, you might have to either work with somebody new, or you might have to work with somebody who's not used to this. And, how do you facilitate that?
I mean, agents are a massive part of this. I, again, have a lot of really great relationships with agents. But if I'm coming in cold, then I think it's about just having a really honest conversation about, like, this is what we want to achieve. This is who we are. And in our brand deck, on our website, we talk about talent all the time. It's like literally we say created with talent, fueled by brands, made for fans. So talent is very much like part of it. So it's really clear that we're here to give talent a platform, and it's like they're very much part of the ingredients list. So I think that's quite refreshing for agents to hear that, because I've had numerous conversations with agents and they say that talent have turned up to events, they don't know what they're doing, everything's disorganized, there's no script. They'll be like, what are the questions? Oh, well, we'll just kind of figure it out. And like, obviously that's not how we operate in the slightest. So I think to be honest, it's quite refreshing for them to go, oh yes, you actually care about the talent and their experience. And obviously everyone wants them to have a great time, because then they're going to love the brand. They're going to, like stick around and they're going to be happy. So I would say like that's because we put talent like really, as such a focus, then it just kind of makes those conversations easier. I think the development of where I've had to really kind of get out of my comfort zone and obviously work with new people is definitely in the creator economy. Mm-hmm. So a lot of more like content creators, obviously they're becoming massive in sport. That is not my background at all. And it's kind of making sure that if I need to be aware of, who's hot and who's, like really great to work with. But also, I think it's just for us, it's just doing our due diligence as well, because it's one thing having a content, like, a brand might be like, oh, well, they can host. I'm like, but can they actually host?
Yeah.
Like presenting and keeping a whole audience engaged and being that glue is a very hard job, and it's a hard role, and people spend years honing that craft. Can a content creator do that? It's my job and the team's job to make sure that that experience for everyone in the room like really lands. And if someone like a host is gonna, like, they don't know what they're doing, they fall flat, they don't have the energy, like it's just going to be bad for everybody. So that's definitely, I would say, like one of the newest challenges for us, that kind of whole influencer content creator world that, brands rightly or wrongly are completely obsessed about. And kind of like navigating that.
Yeah, because I mean, there's two elements to that, I suppose. One is the pure kind of technical skill of particularly something like hosting, which is even different from being entertaining on a panel, but also that people could have big followings and actually be genuinely quite enjoyable to watch in that, what is it, totally. 9:6? I can't remember the ratio of your phone screen, but it doesn't translate to live in the, or at least maybe it doesn't translate in the setting and the concept and the idea that you have behind an event.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the fan then? You're working across multiple different sports and in multiple different settings and contexts and stuff like that. So I'm guessing you're not getting, nice as it would be, the same people turn up to every event. So how do you communicate that to the people who are attending? And
I think
where do you find that audience?
Yeah, so really it's about, we want to be like tapping into people's passions and cultural moments. Like that's where we land. And I feel fandom is a very diverse space, right? Like being a fan of something could mean like you just love a football team or you love running or whatever. And something that I identified, I guess, when we started this was people are fans of like so many things. And really, it's like you could be a fan of cricket, you could be a Man U fan, you could love running, you could be a Lewis Hamilton fan. It's like I feel like I speak to a lot of people that are just like sport lovers, agnostic, really. And it's like, give me a screen with sport and I'll watch it. So for us, like we've never really stuck to one sport. We've done a few NFL events, we've done football, we've done rugby, we've done, oh God, what else have we done? Formula One, loads in running. Like running's been a really, really big space for us. But it's just really about kind of, as I said earlier, giving people an opportunity to get access to talent and to an environment that they just wouldn't usually get. And it's really targeting the people that are just that, as I say, that I don't want to sound, it's like that everyday person that doesn't have access. They don't work in the sports industry. Like, we're so privileged that I get invited to stuff all the time. And, it's kind of like doesn't become as special because it's just the norm. Whereas so many people, like, they don't get the chance to be in a room with Jason Bell and Efe Obada and Neil Reynolds. It's like they watch them on the TV every week. So to get to be in the room and be able to ask them questions and to hang out with them, like, that's a really special experience. And then, so how do we find them? We very much like partner with communities. So especially in the running space, there's so many communities that we can really tap into. And then, to be honest, it's like when we work with brand partners, it might be like, okay, well, we're going to create this as a reward for, their audience. So NFL UK was a partner for the latest Super Bowl event. Obviously, they've got a really big audience in the UK. So that was great for them to be like, okay, we're hosting this special event, and obviously for the diehard NFL fans that want to be engaged and entertained. So I would say it's an array of people, but honestly, like, the energy, there's something, and I don't really know how, but it just like, we just attract people that just like love, they genuinely just love being there, and they're so grateful and thankful. And it's probably because there's not many opportunities that really they can do this kind of stuff. And even if people go to podcast records, it is that stage setting, it is that kind of like theater. It just feels, it's just a bit of a different feel to what we're creating. So yeah, I would say we're just creating something that's a little more magical for the audience.
When do you know, or when do you feel confident that something's coming together, and how late are you breaking it?
I think it all hinges on the talent, to be honest. I think it needs to be a right mix of personalities. And sometimes, we've done experiences in the past, like the Silverstone one was a really good example. So Silverstone came to us and said, we want to create a great event for our members. We've got George Russell, but we don't want to like make it a dinner or like, they were like, we need to attract younger audiences basically, and we need it to be cool. So they were like, can you work with us? And so it was our job to like make a show out of it. So we had Laura Winter host it, who's obviously an amazing Formula One presenter. We had Jolyon Palmer, really knows the industry well. And then we brought in Kay Kurd, the comedian, who I know from Fighting Talk. I know he's a really big Formula One fan. But I was like, we need someone that's unexpected. We need someone that's going to bring that humor and a bit of like the fan part of it. So Kay's role was almost to be like, I'm the fan on the panel and I'm going to ask the questions that everyone else in the audience will want to be asking. And rightly so, Silverstone were a bit like, oh, we're not sure, it's a bit left field. And I was like, just trust me, I know it will be great. And it was great. And Kay obviously had the best time. He was sat on stage with George Russell and he was asking him questions. And I think for George, he was like, oh, this is fun, because I've never like done this with a comedian before. And it was just like, everyone just felt relaxed and it was different. And it was just, it was really fun. So I would say like, it's that getting that mix of talent. And as soon as we've got them sorted, I'm like, okay, I know that we can create something like really great out of this. And then it's just like all the different elements of like, we always get the audience involved. Like, they're very much part of it. And we do a lot of kind of fun things with them and competitions. And so that's like, but I'd say, it's the talent that's the key thing here.
Yeah. Okay. You still, I mean, more than dabble, but you have a foot still through Underground Fan Club in broadcasting and kind of, I guess we have to call it content production these days, but kind of, programming and podcasts and stuff like that. How important has that experience been? I mean, actually, it's kind of a redundant question because you've kind of asked it already, but I suppose what's the difference been? Where have you taken experience from that broadcast era of your career? And what have you had to sort of unlearn a little?
Oh, I mean, that experience was just absolutely incredible. I think not many, I mean, I was on that show for 18 years and I
Yeah.
started as a runner and then ended up, kind of being a central part of it. And the talent and my relationships were just like fundamental to that show and like really creating that culture there. And I just think working in radio is a really and working in podcasts as well, but audio is like a really special medium. And as much as people might say, oh, it's dying out, I think there's always going to be a need for it. Audio, like you only have the opportunity to communicate through your voice. And so that is so much harder. Like it's not video, it's not expressions. It's like I'm moving my hands and I'm a very expressive person, but you can't hear that through someone's voice. So it is something that's just like, I think to work in that and to work in broadcast has given me so many different skills than if I'd have grown up and worked in the kind of agency brand world. And at first I really struggled with that because I felt like a real outsider. And I was like, I don't know this world. Like, I don't know agency brand. Like it is very different. But all of a sudden I was like, hang on, this is like, I can use this to my advantage because like we just work in a different way. I would say like I've got so many different hats and heads that I can kind of use. I'm very creative, but I'm also a producer is like you end up just being the one that kind of figures everything out. And also like you have super lean teams. So you end up doing pretty much everything yourself or like a couple of you. And I mean, that could not be further from the truth from agency life. Like you literally have like 20 people in a team. And so again, like we just like that was never the way that I operated and worked. And also like we just work extremely fast and extremely nimble and just able to kind of, I'm such a creative person that I'll have a conversation with someone and literally be like, right, this is what we're going to do. And I've already kind of plotted the whole thing in my head. And I think that does come back from like experience in film, TV. I produced scripted comedy shows, panel shows, just like such an array. And I worked with so many different people. And all of that really has helped me in this kind of new phase. And look, running a business, that's a whole nother part of it, which I wasn't expecting to do. Like I always say, like I'm an accidental founder. And yeah, it's obviously running a business is extremely challenging, but even that I'm kind of thrive on the unknown and just kind of like, I'm just going to figure things out and see how it lands. And, it's obviously, it's been a total roller coaster, very many highs, many lows, but I'm also like, I've learned so much and I've had such a great time doing it. And I'm always just like, the motto of life is have fun whilst you're doing everything.
Yeah. That sort of feeling of like, I don't know what you call it, what you were trying to accomplish with Fighting Talk, and obviously that you had a formula that you picked up and ran with, but how much did that teach you about format and structure, even for something that feels very loose and kind of off the cuff?
Yeah, I mean, going back to Fighting Talk, I think obviously it's a great format. If you haven't listened to it, have a listen. Rick Edwards hosts it now. But it is kind of organized chaos. Like that's what we say. And that's kind of there's so many elements of Fighting Talk that have seeped into Underground Fan Club. And of course they would, because it was such a massive part of my life. So it is that kind of, like when magicians make something appear and then behind the scenes, like there's obviously like a trick to it. It's like that kind of way that we do things. It's like everything seems so effortless and like, oh, that was like such a unscripted moment. But, behind the scenes we're like, okay, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. But that comes from years and years and years of experience of just knowing what lands, what doesn't land, like what's going to engage people. I think also that there's that like familiarity with Fighting Talk. Like you kind of know what you're going to get. That there's going to be things that go wrong or like, and it doesn't really matter. And I think it's like that freeing looseness of it where it's like, because it's not super serious, like you can just have fun. And I think that's where, we're going into the age of like authenticity and people like not being so perfect with their content. And that's essentially what Fighter Talk always has been. It's just like, you know, there'll be like a mistake in the script and Colin would be like, oh yeah, well, that's totally wrong, isn't it? Like, you know, it's just like, that was what would happen. And I think it just kind of makes it a bit more human and real for people to just like, that's kind of, and also I always said with Fighting Talk, you almost felt like you were just part of the family, and we always used to say that, like, we're just one big family, and the talent were very much part of that as well. And I feel like I've created that with Underground Fan Club. It's like, you're all part of this and you get invited to be in it. And yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. But how on that kind of structural side, like, how do you try things out in that environment? How do you know what's working? Because particularly when you have, like you say, the familiarity, you have a host who's, you know, able to cover, and you've got quite often, as something like that kind of develops a brand and an attraction of its own, you have people coming in who also have the skill level to kind of keep up. But how do you think, well, we're going to introduce this element for the next series, and we need to understand whether or not it's working. We need to understand whether or not it's either it's more trouble than it's worth, or it's not connecting with an audience, or whatever. Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Actually, not for our experiences, but we produced Colin Murray's show on Sunday mornings on BBC 5 Live. Can't get rid of Colin. I've tried. But no, it's a brilliant show. We've produced it for the last 2 years, and we had a feature, only just ended actually, but it was I think it ran for about a year and a bit, and it was the Great Football Songbook. And Colin is the absolute king of coming up with ideas that no one's really done before. And basically, along with Pat Nevin, who is just absolutely brilliant, and we love Pat, and who's a massive, massive music fan, but obviously used to be a Chelsea footballer and does lots of punditry for 5 Live. And we basically went around loads of clubs. I think we did something like 60 clubs, and we found out their history of their iconic song. And we didn't know, obviously we were like, this could work, like in our heads, this is going to be great. But also it's quite a geeky thing, right? It's quite like, and we were just like, but we think it'll be great. And it ended up being, oh my gosh, it was so popular. We would have streams and streams of text coming in. We'd have, I think we were Radio 4 pick like 3 times. But it was just something that really just came from the heart. And it was Colin, like, you know, his geekiness, loves football, loves music. He loves football. And he's like, I've never actually heard this been done before. But it worked with Pat because they got on really well, and he loves his music. And it was just like, again, like all of those little elements. And then we'd have a club historian that would join us, and they would just tell us things. We were like, wow, that is, and like some of the stories were absolutely incredible, and we had no idea. So that was one. And we've actually just started a new strand that's called There's No Place Like Home. And again, like, we go through the history of football grounds, so the actual stadiums. And again, people are absolutely loving it. And it's just something that's different, but actually kind of, you know, it makes sense. It's actually not that, it's not like we've reinvented the wheel on anything, but it's just really interesting, and it's produced in an amazing way. Like the sound and the music and the way the packages were edited, it was just like a really beautiful listen.
Yeah, but it starts with, you're just opening a door to something that people are curious about, or people will kind of get on some kind of elemental level, and just kind of follow along with. Yeah. So you're still working with Colin, as you say. So you were on Fighting Talk for 18 years. So how long have you been working with?
I've known Colin for, I think 18 years.
Yeah.
Probably. So, or 19 years. I basically met him when I was 21, I think. And now I'm 40. So a really long time.
What goes into a creative relationship like that in between a producer and a broadcaster? Particularly one where it goes on that long, and you're kind of feeding off each other.
Yeah, it's we work so well together. Colin he's unlike any broadcaster presenter I've ever met. He is just like, his knowledge and his attention to detail and his care and passion for everything he does is just like next level. but I'm the same. But we kind of complement each other because his knowledge of sport is incredible. Like mine is absolutely not at all. But he'll be like, hey, I've got this idea. And then I'll be like, this is how we make it into reality. Or I'll go, no, that is not like the actual, let's have a think about how we're going to make that. That's not going to work. So we've always, and, you know, like I'm the one that's really connected with talent. So I'll be like, oh, we can get this person and this person. And so I just think like we really complement each other's, you know, where he brings that, I bring this. I'm like the people person. He's more just like the actual, like, how is it going to sound? And like, you know, he's very much a producer. He's got that, he like puts his heart and soul into it. And so it's just, and I do quite a lot of presenting myself now, just kind of totally fell into it from off the back of like doing a lot of events. And this, and someone said to me that it was just like, oh, you know, you're really good with just like engaging people. And I realized that it's like, because I've just spent so much time with Colin. And I think I've just learned through, without even realizing, just the way that he has a conversation and how much I do so much research and I really go into conversations like knowing what I want to get out of it. And, you know, that's obviously a producer that we do that anyway. But he's just like, he's absolutely like, he really is one of the best. And I'm so privileged to be able to have like spent all this time learning from him. Because, you know, I really have learned a lot. And obviously, you know, he learns from me too. But yeah, it's a very rare thing that you can have such a great relationship with someone for such a long time. And you went like, you know, we've got this Sunday show and we did a podcast series last year together. And yeah, it's great. It's really fun.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, it's not exactly universal, a relationship like that in broadcast media. And, you know, from conversations that you've had with other people, I guess, in the trade, like there will be some where the producer is much more of a kind of a manager, a kind of a tender of egos, shall we say, or, you know.
Oh, well, I have to do that with him as well.
But making that person feel comfortable or giving them the kind of platform to flourish. Is that always, to some degree or another, are you always, as a producer, providing a platform for the person to go on and feel secure once they're actually on the air? Even though yours is maybe a more, there'll be a spectrum there, and yours, you know, maybe falls on a slightly more.
Yeah, it's such an important role, and I think, and this goes back to going to other experiences or with the radio show or whatever. But it's really it's just that relationship of going like, I have got your back, and I will never let you fail or look stupid or make you do something you don't want to do. You know, it's like that's I would never do that with someone. And I personally put so much care and time into people. And so again, that's obviously built really great trusted relationships where so many people want to work with us because of that. But even if I'm working with someone new, I will absolutely have a Zoom call or a phone call just to like meet them and talk things through and just be like, okay, so what are you interested in? And how do you like working? And if we write a script, like how much do you want to get involved with it? Like all of those things. And then they'll go, oh, wow, okay, like this person really cares. And like, and obviously people work in such different ways. You know, the way Colin works is he's very much like, I've got this. I'm writing my own script. I don't need your participation whatsoever. And then other people will be like, you need to write the whole script for me. And that's like absolutely fine, of course. So people work in such different ways. And I think you really need to understand how people work, what makes them feel comfortable, and really just kind of provide that service, or, you know, that kind of, to get the best out of people. That's all we ever want to do. It's like, make sure that like you are an incredible, talented person, and we need to give you the environment and the space for you to shine as much as you can.
Yeah. What's next for Underground Fan Club? Busy few months, so I feel bad asking.
Very busy few months. We've got lots coming up. We've got we're doing an experience with Aston Villa Women's, actually, which I'm really looking forward to, ahead of their Arsenal game. I think it's their second to last game of the season. That's in partnership with Guinness. So that's going to be great. We're planning that at the moment. We are doing loads of experiences with Sports Shoes because they're launching a new pop-up store in Shoreditch, which is a 3-story store with an event space, which we will be programming and producing all that, which is, I'm really looking forward to. It's been years in the making and it's finally happening. So that's launching in March. And then really kind of there's lots behind the scenes of like, okay, how do we develop so we're not just doing experiences? Like, how can we create more of a community for our fans? How can we create more rewards and loyalty for fans in general? And that's something that we're looking at and building. And I'm bringing different people into the business to kind of help me grow that part of it. You know, experiences will always be a massive part of what we do, that in real life connection and moments. But it's like, okay, how can we expand that? How can we expand on our IP? How can we expand on, you know, our community of fans, which essentially is, you know, data, which is obviously such an important thing of a business. I feel like we're really getting traction, and Underground Fan Club is kind of getting the notice it deserves. And so I just feel like we're only going to start doing more and more and working with different brands and probably working in different sports as well, which is obviously amazing. And like, I'd like to see more crossovers in music and fashion and culture and all these things that sport embodies and is such a natural fit. And there's one project that we're working on at the moment which very much brings in those elements as well. So that's going to be probably a bit of a first for us. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay, cool. Well, best of luck with all of it. And it sounds like it's flying. I know you got to jump, but 3 questions we ask everyone before to wrap up each podcast. The first is, do you have an origin story or something that sparked your interest in sport?
So this is where I have to confess. I am not a huge sports fan, which people go, what the hell? But for me, I did actually go to Loughborough Uni, but I studied drama. So most people obviously, I know. So I meet people and they go, I went to Loughborough too. What did you study? Like sports science? And I go, no, I did drama. But the one thing that I love about sport is the way it brings people together. And for me, it's everything outside of that 90 minutes or the match or the fight or whatever. I'm interested in the people and the talent and the stories and everything else that it encompasses. So I think it's not particularly a moment, but I mean, I guess Fighting Talk was really the way that I got into the world of sport. So, you know, combine those answers together.
Wow, not a bad way in. On the right podcast, though, if you're interested in the stories and the people around it, what's your favorite piece of sports storytelling?
Oh, favorite piece. I mean, I would have to say probably audio. I would say radio or podcast. I think if it's a really, really well produced, well scripted, or even just like a really great interview, I think, and, you know, obviously going back to Colin, but he really is amazing at those kind of interviews. I think audio is just such a great medium. And I think that's why the world of podcasts is just absolutely skyrocketed.
What's a sports story you'd like to tell or see somebody else tell?
So we worked with Efe Abada last week on the Super Bowl event, and his story, I don't know whether you know it, and if you don't, please go and research it. But Efe's story is absolutely incredible. He was born in Nigeria and he essentially moved to the UK under circumstances that were extremely hard and tough as a child, and essentially was made homeless and moved around many foster homes with his sister. They had no money, and essentially, long story short, he ended up bumping into a guy that he knew who was playing some American football this is in London. And Efe started playing and then ended up getting scouted and ended up playing in the NFL. And it is just the most incredible story. And he is one of the most beautiful, lovely human beings. And just to like come from that, where like, you know, he really had no family, no money, no one supporting him, no, you know, like no one that was helping him at all. And then to make the NFL is just like such an incredible story and a real life story. So I would love that story to be made into a film, to be made into a book. Anyone out there, contact me and we'll make it happen. We'll broker the deal.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to that. And You know people, Charlie. You can see.
Yeah, actually, I can sort this. I'll do a film. It's fine. In the no time that I have spare.
Speaking of which, we're out of time, but Charlie, it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Outlines is an original production from 2640.